We bring Ken and Kong together. Ken to face Kong's sorrow. Kong to ask the questions that have tormented him all his life. At first, Ken doesn't know that Kong is a victim. Kong doesn't know that Ken is one of the shooters.
Where were you in wartime?
I was in the infantry.
In what year?
1967, 1968.
On March 16, 1968, at 6 a.m., U.S. helicopters landed on the rice fields of our beautiful village.
Mr. Kong, I was here that day, back in 1968, when the helicopters landed.
When the soldiers came, they started killing everyone.
Mr. Kong, I was part of the Americans that landed here in the helicopters, and I want to apologize to the people of My Lai. I'm sorry that it happened. I ask myself all the time, why did this happen? I don't know.
A sad feeling and an angry feeling are rising up in my heart. The U.S. soldiers killed my mother, my older sister, and my younger brother. How did you feel when you shot into civilians and killed? Was it hard for you?
Like I say, the only thing I can do now is just apologize for it.
How many people did you kill that morning?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't even know if I killed anyone.
That's not a reasonable answer. Your soldiers put all our people together in one place and shot directly at them. You said you don't know whether you killed anyone? I cannot accept it.
I wasn't with that group. I wasn't on that side of the village.
You stayed back at the edge of our village? But my house, my family was located at the edge of the village. So maybe you came to my house and killed my relatives.
Just the possibility that he may be talking to the man who murdered his family is gut-wrenching for Kong. He finds it hard to even look directly at him, but he tries to say the right thing.
In Vietnam, we have the tradition that we let bygones be bygones. But in our hearts, we cannot forget.
If I didn't care, I wouldn't have come back. And I know words don't heal your heart, but that's all I can do now.
Each man is deeply shaken.
You should educate your younger generations, your children, not to do it again and not to make war anywhere in the world.
Well, those are fine words. I wouldn't want war. I would stop war today if it was possible. Now that I'm older, I can see this. But when I came to Vietnam, I was very young. I have never acknowledged to any great extent that I was at My Lai. But I'm here today to tell you what was done here was wrong. I can't fix your heart. I can't bring your people back to life. I'm sorry.
Ken Shill admits he has dodged the hard questions. In his own mind, he is hidden behind the excuse of only following orders.
I mean, I have the memories, but I have to protect my feelings. I have to protect myself.
Have you made a conscious choice that you're going to take this to your grave compartmentalized? Like what you mean, blocked?
Right.
He says he knows one reason Charlie Company could fire into groups of unarmed villagers, the training they got.
Before we came to Vietnam, you almost didn't think of the Vietnamese as people.
Ken keeps a few photos of the party they held when the murder charges were dropped, but they had little to celebrate in the years that followed. Many of his fellow soldiers, members of Lieutenant Calley's company, have not survived self-examination.
Hamlet. And this lady got up and she ran and turned, had her back turned to me. And my platoon leader, Lieutenant Cross, told me to shoot her. And I said, no, well, you shoot her, man. I don't want to shoot no lady, you know. So he said, well, I'm giving you a direct order to shoot. And if you don't shoot her, that you can be shot yourself. So as she was putting her foot in the door, I shot her about 5 or 6 times. And I went there and turned her over, and there was a little 3-month-old baby on the arms, in which I thought it was a gun, you know, and it's kind of cracked me up.
That day in my life, I was personally responsible for killing between 20 and 25 people, about 25 people, personally. From shooting them, to cutting their throats, to scalping them, to cutting off their hands and cutting out their tongue. I did that.
Some, like Bernardo Simpson, could not live with his memories. Even medications could not dull them.
Like I'm sitting talking to you now, I can't promise that when you come again, I'll be here. Because before you came, I had to get out the hospital from trying suicide for the third time.
Bernardo Simpson committed suicide in 1997. We asked Pham Kong how the encounter with Ken has affected him. Is there a sense of relief that you finally got to confront someone from so long ago? He tells us he has spent a terrible night. He drank, he wept, he was angry. He was filled with sorrow. He visited the graves of his family and confessed his conflicting feelings.
Standing there, murmuring to my father, my mother, and my brothers and sisters, I said that yesterday I met one of our former enemies who killed you, but I could not do anything. I could not beat him or strike him or kill him, because that is against the laws of Vietnam.
Ken Shield knows he has not given Kong the answer he needed. The why.
Some of his questions, the way he wanted them answered, because there was only one way to answer it, and that was we were following orders.
Does calling it your job make it right?
No, it doesn't make it right.
In your mind, are you a murderer?
No.
In your heart?
No, I'm not a murderer in my heart.
Ken's contention that he was only following orders upsets attorney Gary Myers.
There is no legal order that allows you to blast an 18-month-old child out of a trench. That's an illegal order. And you have a duty not to obey that order.
Myers specializes in military law. He began his career representing a soldier at the My Lai massacre prosecution. He has since been involved in two other well-known cases, Abu Ghraib and Haditha. A lot of people said Haditha was the My Lai of Iraq. Myers disagrees. He believes My Lai was a massacre. Haditha was not. At Haditha, he says, Marines initially came under attack.
The difference between Haditha and My Lai is very simple. American troops killed innocent, unarmed civilians at Haditha. Our Marines were responding to a demonstrated threat. Yes, women and children ended up dying, and the deaths of those women and children was an expected and anticipated result of insurgency warfare.
What is it about these kind of scenarios that brings that out of the human heart?
It's unclear what brings it out, but as a lawyer, I can tell you that the people I've represented in both settings were perfectly decent people. This is not about sociopaths. Some would say that it's a lack of character. I don't believe it's a lack of character. I believe that it is the simple truth that war is a horrible, horrible thing.
Ken Shield told us he was eager to return to My Lai to set the record straight about his unit.
My Lai was an isolated incident for our company. We didn't do that with every village that we went through.
He especially wants his grandchildren to understand that they were not evil, that bad things happen in war. And throughout our days there, Ken was defensive.
You want me to break down and cry?
But at the last moment, just as our crew was boarding a plane to a different destination, Ken, who had to remain in the airport for a later flight, did break down and cry. And our Vietnamese translator, who lost a brother in the war, went back and hugged him. There is a cycle in war. Aging soldiers express sorrow, regret. They apologize to their victims. They say never again. They say, let us raise our children to love peace, not war. But their sons and daughters are already engaged in the next war, the next killing field. They're taught anger, hate, fear. They're taught to kill. And they betray their own goodness. And they too will age. And they will say, how could we have done this? This should never have happened. And never is the cycle of war broken.